Could Celtic and Rangers survive in the Premier League? Let's go find out. And here we are, we have Celtic and Rangers in the Premier League. Obviously there are a couple of changes with Luton and Sheffield United going down in place of Celtic and Rangers. Up first they have Arsenal and Brentford in their first games. What we're going to do is go to the end of the year, or the midway point in terms of fixtures, and we'll see how they're getting on. And pretty much at the midway point for fixtures for both Celtic and Rangers, it is not pretty reading. Both of them have a combined 2 victories the entire season. I don't know how reflective that is really of real life. I feel like both of these teams are very good teams, as evident from how consistent they are and how often they've managed to get into Europe. Rangers obviously get into the final of the Europa League in recent years. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't be able to beat quite a few of these teams that are in the bottom half. Looking over the games that Celtic have played this season, even losing to Rangers, the only other victory didn't come until playing against Everton in December, which is obviously one of their relegation rivals. Yeah, see, this doesn't really feel right. Even going over to the main page, Brendan Rodgers is still in charge, so I don't really know how much of this is a reflection of the team itself. And then looking at Rangers, Philippe Clement is still in charge of them, and their first victory didn't come until September, when they actually played Celtic in the Premier League and won 2-0. Other than that, they won in the Europa League a couple of times, but in the league, they've lost pretty much everything. So let's head to the end of January and see if any transfers have been made and whether their fortunes have turned around at all. Okay, so here we are on the 2nd of Feb 2024, and looking at both the teams, Rangers haven't won a single game since that point in December, and Celtic have managed to pick up a couple of extra wins. So let's go into Rangers first and see what's going on with them. In terms of transfers, have they brought anybody in? So looking at transfers, they've managed to bring in a couple of players. Isaac Janssen from Cartagena, don't know who that is, and Charlie Hughes from Wigan for 4.3 million. Looking at the overview page, Philippe Clement is still in charge, and let's see what the other results have been. Not great. They've hardly even scored a goal since December, so it's not looking good for them. And over to Celtic, Brendan Rodgers is still in charge, and in terms of transfers, they've managed to bring in a few players. We've had Darko Giarbi come in from Leeds, Federico Redondo come in from Argentinos Juniors, Junior Firpo, Lasse Lukic, Callum Chambers, and Max Lowe. So they've spent a little bit of money to try and save themselves from relegation. In terms of sales, not really much going on, just a couple of players out on loan, and then Dane Murray has gone over to Bristol City. So in terms of fixtures, they've had a little bit of good run of form at the end of December going into, well, where we are now. They've picked up a few draws, a few wins both in the Cup and in the League, with quite a big win against Man United in the Premier League. Will that save them though? There's only one way to find out. So let's jump to the end of the season and see whether these two teams can save themselves from relegation. Getting to the end, and the first thing popping up has been insecure jobs for Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement. Doesn't give me a lot of hope for either of the two teams. Let's go see how they got on. And there we have it. Both Rangers and Celtic end up getting relegated and having less points than Everton. A weird change in that Celtic were starting to pick up some good results and didn't end up managing to get themselves out, and ended up finishing bottom in the end, with Rangers managing to pick up a fair few more wins and moving up into 19th place instead. Again, I don't feel like this is a real reflection of either of those teams. Obviously, this is a simulation, it's not real life, but I feel like both of these teams would have had more to give than getting relegated in their first season. But let's go and have a look at Celtic and see what happened in terms of their results, because by the looks of it, following on from when we last saw them, they only won one game. A lot of games they lost 2-1, 2-0, 1-0. Like, it's not like they were, smashed around. Like, they were fairly solid, but they just couldn't win a game. And then if we go over to Rangers, they did manage to pick up a few extra wins. I don't know why it's condensed like this. So we go from around the start of February. They got a 2-2 draw with Liverpool, a 2-1 win against Chelsea, a win against Sevilla in Europa League knockout stage. They beat Celtic, drew against Fulham, beat Newcastle, drew with Ajax, drew with Bournemouth, and then lost to Ajax in the round of 16? The round of 16. So how can they get relegated but still get to the round of 16 in Europa League? It's mad. They managed to pick up a couple of extra wins, one against Tottenham, drawing with Everton the second from last game of the season, and it just wasn't enough to keep them up, which is a real shame. Again, I don't think it's a real reflection of either of those two teams, but it's been real fun seeing what these two teams could do in the Premier League. If there is anything that you want to see that I have missed out, then please feel free to leave a comment below. And if you want to see what happened when I tried to change the last 10 years of football history, then please follow the video on my left.